Okay. All right. So, hello everyone. Good evening. I am Nikhita from Abstin Infotech, and I am really excited to welcome you all to a wonderful session on future ready workforce upskilling and reskilling for success. It's an absolute pleasure to kick off the things with all of you. And before diving into the session, I'm having a quick pointers for all of you. This session is being recorded and link will be shared in your inbox later. Drop your question anytime in our Q&A box and we'll address them at the end. Stay with us till the end and we have some exciting takeaways for you. So let's get started. Uh, as we know that world is changing faster than ever. AI, new technologies, automation, everything is evolving. But the big question is, are we evolving with it? Yes, that's we are going to talk about today: upskilling, reskilling, and making sure we are always ready for what next. And I am really looking forward to this conversation, and I know it's going to be an insightful and engaging session because we have a very special guest with us today. He's not only an HR leader but a visionary change maker as well. Let's welcome Mr. Abhisek Nag, HR Director from New Globe. He comes over 18 plus years of experience across US, UK, India, and African region. If I talk about his academic credentials are simply unmatched with the degree from XLRI Jamshedpur and NIT Surat, and also a certified SHRM SCP leader. But that's just a beginning. If I talk about, he's also known for transformative initiatives like EKTA program and HRIS implementation, recognized both nationally and internationally. So Abhishek, I am really glad to have you with us today. Stage is all yours.
Thank you, Nikhita, for that wonderful introduction. And I feel privileged and honored to be speaking ahead in front of all of you. Thanks to all the participants who have joined in. I just want to make sure I am clearly audible to everyone and visible. If so, and thanks to the Abstin team for this opportunity. So the topic for today is upskilling and reskilling for the workforce, right? And we're talking about a very interesting topic at a juncture in time when the world is changing in a very in an unprecedented order. And
yes, exactly.
This is, and I'll take a little step back for you to reflect on some of the things so that it sets the context for our conversation today, and then I will talk about the core topic per se, and what can we all do, or what can we engage upon. So just a quick check, and if Nikhita, if we are allowed, I don't know if the participants can chat. Is that possible? They can put in comments or chat in the chat box, or they're not allowed to?
No, they're not allowed to, but they have an authority to put the things in our Q&A section.
Q&A. Okay.
Yes.
So that's fine. No. So the if I look at and I'm guessing there is a mix of audience who are Gen Zs, who are millennials, maybe some baby boomers as well. And I'll talk about a timeline from the 1980s up till now. And some of you who are Gen Zs may not recognize. Some of you who are millennials will probably understand this. And we'll talk about the time frame from 1980s until today, so some of you will relate to. If you look at, there's a time frame where there was systems, computers coming in place, and contextually, specifically in India, 1990 forward, when before 1990, jobs were primarily in certain sectors like banking, government, and things like that. And IT was not in vogue. So it came the world of 1990s when liberalization happened. The world order for India started changing. We embraced technologies, computers, the new age. At that point in time, the tech companies of the world, the services tech companies of the world started gaining precedence. From India, the likes of Infosys, TCS, HCL, Cognizant, etc., started growing. And we had a mass scale of people joining these organizations and having their career in IT, which required a new set of skill sets. And computer science as a function gained prominence. Engineering became very mainstream, and we had more and more engineering colleges growing up. Now, if you look at that's a cusp of change, and again an upskilling and reskilling, but in a different context. Why am I going to this? We will look at this lens of upskilling and reskilling at different phases and how it has evolved over the years and where it lands now. And I believe in everything that we do in life, history has a very strong correlation and importance for us to understand that how things have evolved in the past need not necessarily be that it is a immediate indicator of what's going to happen in future, but it gives you a good context of how it has evolved, and that how is important to know. You may not be able to exactly predict what's going to happen, but you will know the learnings from those each evolution helps you tackle the future better. Now, we had the entire ecosystem, not just the population at large, but society. We had companies, we had HR folks, we had employees, employers. Everything evolved at that moment in time to cater to this entire genre. Fast forward, we had the 2000s when probably around the 2001 or so, when the crash in US happened, that led to a digital bust, and things started hitting a recession for a while. IT companies were under the lens, and things started to slow down. But look at it, it's just a matter of time. Things again started picking up. By 2010, 7 to 10 time frame onwards, the next decade, we had a lot of new age product or services tech companies coming out of India, which were catering to the Indian market. The today's Flipkarts of the world or Zeptos of the world started back in 2007 to 10 time frame, and we had influx of foreign capital investments in India. The entire ecosystem of startup world started gaining precedence, and again, that led to a very different genesis of requirement of skill sets for people. So essentially, again, people who were graduating at that point in time, or people who have been in the industry, started evolving. So there were, if you look at from a tech skill set standpoint, and I'm specifically focusing on tech at this moment, and I'll generalize it in a bit. If you look at pure tech skill set, the services organization of the world require very deep tech enterprise architecture, enterprise solutions, which are very, very ingrained into the tech stack, specific to the organization or specific to a large product which has mass appeal or catering to small, not small, but medium or large size businesses, the SAPs of the world or the Oracles of the world. When we came to the startup world, we required tech people who could develop technology or product or solutions, which are now focusing on into the localized product, developing product architecture, and creating things which are catering to Indian market and solving problems at scale for the Indian market, which required a very different skill set, the tech stacks, the architecture, the things that you require people with experience developing products ground zero up. We had a lot of, at some point we had talent from the Silicon Valley coming back to India. There was some returning talent. Also, there were homegrown talent that started getting precedence, who were in smaller organizations or doing small product tech, and they started getting precedence. Now, again, a change there, that people who were doing mass tech, they started realizing that there is a need for a different kind of skill set in the market, and started upskilling. Eventually, if you look at the genesis of courses that were being taught in engineering schools, changed. So we had the new flavor of the time, that which started picking up. Product engineering started pick up. If you look at product engineering, product management, product owners, all these jobs and things have evolved in the last 10 years. You'd hardly find someone doing a product role before the 2000s, before 2010. I mean, there somebody who would probably, there'll be a handful of people who would be doing a product role in India before 2010. But post that era, we've had this technologies gain prominence. Come 2020 and forward, which is COVID and the time frame, again, a new era changed, right? So this decade that we are in now and post-COVID, there's again a variety of skill sets that started moving, which is where artificial intelligence, Gen AI started picking up. So 3-4 decades, overall, the theme remains that at every point, there are costs where technology has evolved, has impacted life at large, and how we perceive things. Now, I'll go to the consumer side of things, because essentially when you work in an organization and all these that we're talking about, skilling and reskilling, this has a very deep context with how consumers use technology at large and how businesses serve to consumers. Because essentially whatever we are doing as an it's a chain, right? A company serves to its customers, company employs people, and that employees are served by people within HR space. Now, if you look at that landscape also, the way HR service delivery used to be to the employees have evolved. There was, as a function from a personal administration or a industrial relations, HR has evolved as a terminology now, people capital.
Yes, exactly.
Multiple evolution of the term itself, right? And I mean, courses and I know for a fact from my method, the program that we used to have was called Personal Management and Industrial Relations. Excel named the program eventually. Now it's called Human Resource Management. So things have been evolving on the HR side of space. How services delivered, how people, what human resource would do for an organization from an employee, for employees of organization has also evolved drastically over the years. Now, there was a point in time when there were discussions about whether HR has a sit at the table and things, but now it has evolved where HR is driving business in how businesses perform. Because today it's a function of, and McKinsey coined this term long back about the talent war. Today, how you win the talent war makes you successful as a business. So essentially, how you win the talent war is how HR as a function is be able to successfully create strategies for you to win that war. And that's where skilling and reskilling comes in a very poignant point. One side of it is having employees within the organization. And everyone who's in HR space would know and kind of acknowledge to this fact that attrition is a cost, and one of the metrics for every HR leader is attrition.
Yes, exactly.
A metric that we constantly kind of be on our toes. Now, what does it impact? That impacts if an employee leaves an organization, there's an kind of that knowledge, which is tacit knowledge of the organization, that is lost. Similarly, there is a lot of learning, not just how the employee was performing, but there's a long time to hire, retrain, and make the employee productive to the level that somebody was. So, and make that performing organization. So essentially, it's very common sense, and there are a lot of data points also to verify this, that retaining an employee is always the best case. And when we do that, how do you make sure that that talent who you hired maybe 5-10 years back is equally productive and giving you output today? And that's where upskilling and reskilling comes in play. I'll put in some statistics for the future forward, which would make sense. This is from World Economic Forum report of I think 2025 jobs that they came up with a report recently, which predicts that roughly a net of there's going to be around 120 million jobs which are going to be created, and there's going to be around 40 million jobs which will go obsolete in the market. net of 80 million jobs are going to be created. But interestingly enough, 85% of those 80 million jobs do not exist today. So this is by 2030, they predict that there's going to be a net of around 80 million jobs being created. But 85% of those jobs do not exist today. And that's the fun fact, right? If they do not exist today, which means if I'm saying let's take a confidence level, let's take a 70% approximation of the data being accurate because it's a prediction. Even if you take that, there are jobs which people are going to do and don't exist today. But we are not going to have a complete change of manpower in organizations, which means we are needing to have our existing employees undergo reskilling and upskilling to be able to adapt to those jobs largely. And there will be some churn, there will be some new hires, etc. But a core set of employees will remain, and for organizations that will survive and win and continue to do business, they will require people to be trained, skilled, and constantly uplifted to adapt. Now, what comes in as a this is I believe now I've been able to establish a premise of why this is important and what history tells us that makes a precedent for it. Right? Coming to the point of how do we do it and what it entails from an employer standpoint. Fundamentally, in any function, there is always a push and a pull factor. So one is that there is a business push that we want to be not hitting obsolescence and being constantly thriving, which is one from an employer side, and then from an employee side also, that it creates a lot of mobility and job security and adaptability for the employee. Now, from an employer standpoint, when we want, assuming that we have HRs in the audience and people are interested to understand how we can, from an employer standpoint, we can enable this. So largely, as Simon Sinek says, starting with the why of it makes a lot of difference, because essentially we know for a fact that any learning and development or any initiative by an employer to its employees, which whatever well-intended it may be, the adoption remains low unless employees start owning it. And so the first premise would be, how do we make something that employees start owning it, which means they need to believe that this is something for them essentially and will do good for them, and they believe in the purpose of it. So kind of articulating that purpose in a way which is palatable for them is the critical mass. And more often than not, we try this purpose being circulated. There are lots of activities done by organizations to circulate the purpose, to communicate this purpose, articulate it in different forms. But what we forget to put across is that there are employees who are different personas. So in an organization, there are employees who are Gen Zs. There is demographic dividend. There is diversity of digital divide that employees have. There are diversity of cultures that employees have. There are diversity of different manners that employees have. And how do we create communication that caters to different personas of employees? The moment we start communicating in their language, which is understandable, which is absorbable by employee, they start believing it. It can be, and this is where an inclusion diversity comes in play, that are we creating a communication that is inclusive enough for the employees to understand why of an upskilling or a reskilling program. That becomes a very critical factor for its adoption. Second aspect is the core delivery of the process. When we are looking at, essentially, an employee wants to upskill, A, for their own career growth, or B, that within the organization, and when I say career growth, it can be within the organization, it can be outside the organization, doesn't matter. B is that in the relevance of business, the organization also needs the employee to be upskilled so that they can, if it's a consulting business, maybe the consultant needs to be upskilled for generating more value, or if it's internal facing roles, then upskilling to be able to adapt to the newer set of changes coming in the business context. a simple case today with Gen AI, a lot of work can be done faster, better, and probably cheaper as well. So how do we incentivize or make people you start using that in their own microcosm of things so that they can do their own work faster? Which means that that purpose for the employee being articulated in their own uh, answers is critical. So that they start believing that this is not just by the organization but for them, and start paying attention to it. When you start paying attention, the next step is the service delivery, that how it is being delivered. Is it at my convenience? Is it at my does it create friction? Do I have to like maneuver a lot? Maybe there is somewhere there I need to figure out where it is or how it is, or maybe can I do it, I have to go somewhere, or even if I have to log in maybe in a portal or in a mobile app, is it asynchronous? Can I do it at my own time, or do I have to do it at a particular time, or is that timeline, how is it too heavy, is it too light? So uh, kind of micro credentialing. Then how immersive is it? Is it like today there, again, inclusivity, there are video learners, there are audio learners, there are kinesthetic learners. So am I being given the same content in different formats, which makes it easier for me? I personally learn to like by doing or writing or on audio. So is it just an audio, or is it requires me to be a video on always or something like that? So service delivery makes a huge play on how people perceive it and things, right?
Even yes, gamification is also there. I
Yes,
can add on that
absolutely.
thing as well. Yes,
Absolutely, I was coming to that point. You
yes,
took it. The thing, which is where the incentive and the reward part comes in play. That can I? So the third piece is how the service delivery is done, and then the third piece is where I was coming to, and you kind of hinted on that, is creating an incentive structure, which can be through gamification, through a intrinsic reward, through other tangible rewards and recognition possible, maybe leaderboards, maybe multiple things. Just creating a which there can be intangibles, or there can be just gamification. There can be some cases, some organizations have budgets and things to be able to do spend and even kind of have physical rewards, recognitions, etc. But essentially gamifying it in so that it incentivizes people to do it. And especially for any program, there is always the innovation diffusion curve where there is early adopters. How do you start recognizing the early adopters as champions of the program and branding them, giving them the limelight and the visibility that creates everyone else to follow through? So that remains as a third piece. These three, and then constant monitoring and adoption of from the people who are managing the program to be able to change course. We sometimes say that, oh, we would want to do this and it will run for maybe 6 months, 10 months, 1 year, and we then
yes.
monitor. But constant monitoring is important in today's world because it's it's a world of instant gratification. So sure, we need to think in smaller sprints. In a typical product cycle, people operate in sprints, which should be in the HR space, that we start operating in sprints so that people within the HR space focusing on, okay, I did this, I iterated this like a typical sprint. Did it work, not work? What can I do to reiterate? So that becomes a critical aspect also.
Wow,
So
that's
yeah.
you covered it so well actually. Yes, please continue.
So thanks. So that's broadly, I would say, the things. The last piece that I want to touch upon is, and this is often that comes from, and we have different organizations. Some organizations do have budgets, some organizations don't. And again, fortunately, today we live in a world. Information has being more freer than anywhere else. Today, we generate probably trillion bytes of data in every millisecond of time, and majority of the contents are free to consume. With brilliant content available in the internet, free. The objective, the business case where we and there is also a good value in organizations that deliver good content and stuff and paying for it. I'm not saying anything against them, but I'm saying for the organizations which do not have a budget, which may not have the ability to to keep aside money for things that they want to do, can still utilize a lot of free things to be able to at least hone the basic their skill sets and make sure that their employees are equally growing up and being supported. It requires a bit of effort from the HR side to curate those content and use the massive online courses that are available to be able to give it to their employees, contextualize it, find out the right content, and help them develop and grow. So that's with that, I'll conclude. I think I'll just sum up saying that there is possibility, there is a lot of good use case of Gen AI, which and I'll just give a quick last example, and I don't know if someone has already used it, but you can use your AI, maybe whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or any of these. You can use them with a prompt, with a good prompt, to make it your AI coach to help you learn. So, an upskilling and reskilling, it's very well possible that you can create a good prompt and which can help the AI. And I was trying a prompt yesterday, right itself, and can use that prompt where you ask the AI to act as your coach and train you on things that you want to learn, and it will create a customized plan for you, which with links, with things which you can start doing, and you can get better at whatever you want to. It can be anything in the world.
Yes, that's a very interesting facts which you have shared with us. Thank you for that valuable facts sharing with us. So I just wanted to understand that you have said like you have shared one thing, after AI, automation, and new technologies, these things are reshaping industries, and definitely there is one thing that people are losing their jobs. So I just wanted to understand, like, with certain roles become obsolete due to automation and AI, what type of skills should organization, prioritize in their upscaling strategies? What do you think about that?
That's a great question, Nikhita, and I think the ability matters is learnability. You cannot 20 years back, people did not know about AI and Gen AI and the way that we know today. But we are getting skilled and learning. So there are the moment you see that you're doing something repetitive and the one that you are not adding value by doing that job repetitively. And this is very simple framework that I say. You're doing a work and you're doing that work over and over again. In the second, third, fourth iteration of that work, you're not adding value. That is a job that's most likely going to be automated at some point. So essentially, you should upskill for things where you're doing something which has iterative value, that it's probably going to be for the longer run, and the ability to learn anything that's new. So being an open mind, being curious, fundamentally today, one thing that plays out very strongly beyond anything is curiosity. If you look at what we are in, I think ChatGPT launched in 23 or somewhere in 24, and look at probably at 23, look at how many people started using it in the first 6 months of its launch versus the next 6 months. It proliferated heavily, but the point is, being at the first 6 months of its usage is what matters. So are you being, like, as an individual, are you being more adaptive towards it? From an organization standpoint, it's a business strategy for organizations. There are, and fortunately or unfortunately, there are going to be jobs that will get eliminated because it will mature up in the value chain in things, and we will see more mass layoffs happening. Today we're seeing many organizations doing it. It will escalate more and more as we see, because there is always going to be value degeneration of jobs. Now, as an organization, you pivot when you feel that there is technology that can do with your jobs, or things which can do it faster, better. Is that, like, as a human being, are you doing something already using of technology so that it's already delegated the work that you could not, you think is repetitive or is not adding value, you should start delegating it to technology even before it is a push by the organization. Then you're already delegated technology. Problem happens when we do not use it, and we wait for it to happen, and then we start adding human layers to it, and then over a period we've added many human layers, which become suddenly obsolete because we have now start adapting the technology. So individually, everyone has a responsibility, and organization has a responsibility to structure the performance management in a way that the KPIs are linked to usage of technology and adoption. Then automatically um, that skill set will happen where learning becomes a conversation. Today, there are organizations which say, and I don't recollect off in the name of the organization, but there's an organization which has put a very clear KPI, and a global CEO has put across that within their team, they have mandated that everyone has to have a use case of AI on their KPIs to be able to make sure that they're getting up to date.
Yes, that's so interesting. So I would like to shift slightly with the thing that if I talk about in terms of upskilling and reskilling. So if I talk about in terms of leadership role, employees are often reluctant to shift themselves or to opt for new things. So what do you think that what are some creative ways to encourage the employees to for the upskilling and reskilling programs?
There is that's a good one. There's always there, as I said earlier, right? There's a innovation diffusion curve. There's always some early adapters, and there's always going to be some laggards. And it spreads out over like a very evenly with a distributed one, where there's going to be some people who are very pro and will take up anything, and there are some people who deal. Now, your question is around the people who are laggards. How do you kind of make them? And there's as simple as that age-old process. There are two ways in general. Either you reward them or you start. It's like a positive incentive or a negative reinforcement. So a positive reinforcement is that giving them a push, which can be that okay, there's a cat at the end of the tunnel which makes them go towards it, and the carrot should be customized, personalized, so that they start feeling towards it. Or there is a push at the end of the stick, like the typical carrot and stick approach, which pushes you to make sure that if you do not, maybe people who are very laggard, you start holding on certain things, maybe their growth, showing them that their growth is getting stalled because of this, or taking more stringent steps, which leads them to start upskilling themselves. And also sometimes it's a shakedown that we as a like HR has a responsibility to coach employees to make them understand why and how it is important. More often than not, people may be thinking in their own mindset that there is a factor of procrastination because the organization has load. So creating that safe space for employees to operate and take up that. So freeing up a bit of bandwidth planning around it, manpower planning comes as a play. Second piece is making sure that once the bandwidth is created, once the safe space is created, if there are people who procrastinate by nature, how do you create maybe pairing people together, buddy system, where we call it accountability partner. You if you want to do something, let's say you want to go to a yoga class or something on a regular morning, and it's difficult for you to wake up early and go. You find someone who's also wants to do, may not be that strong and interest, but both of you are at an equal level of interest. And some days when you are down, the other person holds you accountable and take you. When the other person is down, you do that. So it creates a motivational pull for people. So as an organization, if you can create that space of accountability partner for people to kind of partner together who are in the same journey, making cohorts together, which cohort-based learning also has a lot of push, because it creates a natural push for employees to then progress. Sometimes maybe they're not able to take time out of their job, so the cohort comes together and becomes a learning partner for each other, and you go and study the old method of study groups, etc., which you have done in school days. All these have a relevance how people learn, right?
Great. I agreed with you totally. So, if I talk about, I am just curious to ask that question, being an HR person, because often we face this situation, like how being an HR people, we convince leadership people to invest more seriously into this skill development, especially with the tight budget situation. So, I just wanted to understand like how we can convince our leadership team.
So it's think of it very simply as a leader. What matters to you is fundamentally how is the business doing, right? And if you were to get a person who would help you increase your business performance, you would always want that as a business leader. You'd always want your revenues to be better. You'd always want your EBITDA to be better, profitability to be better, or maybe sales, or maybe other parameters, whatever the business parameters are, right? And if you can showcase as a HR leader to your business that this is the investment that you're doing, if you're to why hire the person at the first place and paying a salary, because you want the person to deliver certain outcomes. Now, getting someone to increase the performance level, you're spending this as a money or investment to make the person better, which will deliver results. Now, the question that often comes across is, what is the correlation? They would not question you, or so that is there a. The question is not about whether this investment is right or not, but the question comes around that if I make this investment, is there a guarantee that the person will perform and do, right? That is where a good project plan and a program plan and a showcase of the ROI, that how you're going to make that happen, the execution piece and the critical planning of it, and how the transferable skills are helping the business to grow and be able to showcase that creates the magic. So if I say that, okay, I'm going to invest on these people for this particular learning, and this will help implement my operation, or increase my operational efficiency by 30%, you can translate to a number which will help you justify the budget. The point is, for the HR to do that, you need a solid understanding of how your business operations are, and that requires a lot of homework. We often fail to do that at times, or we do not have uh, the end clarity of how it will translate. It's tough. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. The more you kind of iterate it and do it, then you get better at it. The moment you're able to articulate it, that this will translate to X things, it makes all the more difference. The technical skills, or not technology, but technical skills for any job are easier to, like the budget for upskilling or reskilling for
Yes.
those jobs are easy. The functional ones are difficult because they are lesser quantified. If you want to invest on behavioral skills or training, that is difficult to be quantified by someone within HR or outside. So that case is a challenge where you show how do you invest. There it's a different approach, that you may be able to showcase that what are the problem statements that's happening, and you would do that data analysis before an survey or something to understand what is the impact of that behavioral aspects, how it is impacting the organization today, so that you can still showcase a picture, or put up a picture that can be better than the current, and how it is going to impact the culture of the organization and things. So and then we correlate that really with the performance. It makes all the difference.
That's really insightful. Actually, we are having a time constraint, so I just wanted to, know that what are your some final recommendation for the organization to create a culture that supports, continuous learning and growth among their workforces.
So I think it's an imperative today that every organization needs to do. I don't think we have a choice now. It's whatever, whether you're a large organization, small organization, medium size, does not matter. Today, people ask, even at the stage of your offer, what's your learning plans for how you're helping me grow? And if you do that proactively, it gives you an edge as a stronger employee value proposition to be able to establish and showcase. If you do it reactively, you need to do it. Whether you do it reactively or proactively, you still need to do it. If you do it reactively, you're losing the competitive advantage. If you do it by a design, by structure, then you probably get competitive advantage out of it.
Great, great. Wow. So that was truly an insightful session, Abhisek, and I think we have all gained some wonderful takeaways for your session. So now let's open the window for some audience question. I'll just pick up the question from our Q&A window. Okay,
Sure.
I'll just pick one. All right. Okay. Uh, there is a person. There is a question. How can a small scale organization with budget constraints successfully carry out an upskilling campaign?
Great question. I think for us, for a small scale organization, and again, it depends on how small it is. If you're less than 10, you have a different proposition. If you're somewhere between 10 to 100, there's a different proposition. And if you're above that, there's a slightly different proposition. I'll just categorizing it in that sense. If you're below 10 as a number, very small, ideally you would look at external sources and binding together with other organizations in that same scale. Maybe if you are, I'm guessing that stage you'll be a startup or so. And then if you have a investor, then maybe that investor has other organizations, file it together, pull resources together to be able to, you may not be able to arrange, let's say, a particular training program or enroll your employees in a particular learning program uh, alone. But if someone is conducting one and you want to kind of piggyback on that, that's the best case strategy. Or there are a lot of online tools. Again, as I said, there are a lot of online free courses which you can do. You can look at having mentors outside of your organization. There are a lot of people who are willing to volunteer time for mentoring, and that gives them also a good post and things. So mentoring, getting mentors from outside, or having people come and talk to your employees' organization. There are a lot of people who are willing to come and give guest lectures or talks, which creates an ambience of conversation, positive uptake. And this applies also to a organization which is below 100 largely. Maybe if you're slightly bigger, then you can look at micro-sized content subscriptions, which are again on a subscription basis, but subject to, maybe you do not have the budget for all your employees. Maybe you do a rotation basis, or you can afford some subscriptions, whatever works for you for that. Separately, you can leverage, there's a ton of free webinars that happen today, which are very content specific and things, and you can get to do that. There are a lot of insightful master classes that happen. You can have your employees enroll there, curate them for the employees. There are a lot of good views now. Today, there's problem plenty. There are too many contents, there are too many things available. Curating the right set of content which will create a learning path or things for your employees may make sense. And that's where a learning development. If you have a internal learning development, if you're slightly bigger in size, maybe beyond 500, you may have a smaller learning and development team. Then having the team to do certain trainings in-house, or time to time have some internal trainers. You may get few trainers trained in and then use them as internal trainers to train. So multiple options available.
Great. All right. I'll just pick up one another more question for you. Okay, that is a question. What do you think will be the top KPIs 5 years down the line?
Uh, okay. This is pretty. I need a little more context on this question because
Yes, yes. I feel
I'm
so.
not sure
Yeah.
for which role it would be, because KPIs would vary from role to role. But to if I take a stab at it, make more generically, I think fundamentally, if I don't know about what are the top like whether it will be like the topmost, but it'll factor in one of the KPIs of what are you learning or what has been your learnability uh, in the period of evaluation. That will feature as a top KPI in any organization for any role. And it has started already, but it is going to be more mm, prominent. It will gain more prominence. Learnability as a factor will come in more prominence in any of KPIs, any of the roles, if I have to take a step.
Great. So, well, let's bring us to the end of this wonderful and enlightening session. I would like to thank you, Abhisek, for sharing such a valuable insight and actionable, strategies with us. Even, a big thank you for all who have joined us today, and we really appreciate your time and interest. Uh, I would like to add one more thing that this initiative by Arriba HRMS is, focused on helping HR professionals stay informed about, current challenges and trending in the industry. And we are really excited to bring you more useful sessions soon, and hope you will continue to find them beneficial. Thank you all, and have a great evening and wonderful weekend for all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Abhishek, I really like. I just wanted to add on that we would love to have you on some wonderful sessions with us continuously under the Ariba HRMS. I would love to have a more conversation on current trending topics with you.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me once again, Nikhita, and thanks to all the audience who have been patiently hearing, and appreciate. I hope it was useful time spent with all of you, and I'm able to share something which was interesting and something informative. But happy if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me over LinkedIn or otherwise. And thanks again to the Arriba team and you for hosting me. My privilege and pleasure. Thank you all. Have a
Thanks.
great evening and a great weekend ahead.
Thanks a lot.